Morning again. Today we're going to be reviewing money. So it's been a little while since we reviewed our coins. One of the best things that I would suggest that you do when you're reviewing your coins is see what you can find around your house. Grab a handful of coins, try to sort them, try to separate them by the type and the value. Remember, we talk about the difference between how many coins that we have versus the value of that. So this one is a quarter and it would be worth 25 cents. We have a dime, which is our smallest one. And if we're able to look on the back, it does say 1 dime on there, and it's worth 10 cents. We can see the size difference between the two. This one is a little bit harder for us to determine on our papers because they're very similar looking. Sorry, my quarter's a little dirty, but so these are our quarters and our nickels. So having them in our hands, there's a few things that I can notice. On my quarter, it's got that kind of bumpy, rough edge. My nickel does not. You can also study them and look closely and see some features, such as on the back of the nickel, it says 5 cents, and we know that a quarter is worth 25 cents. So there's some different things that you can look at there. And then, of course, we know our penny, which is totally unique from all of our other coins, and that's worth 1 cent. So we practiced a lot this year on writing the values of our coins. So if I'm going to write quarter, I can write it either as 25 cents with the cent symbol, or I can write it in dollar signs. And remember, if I have my dollar sign, I have to think, is a quarter worth $1 yet? No, it's not. So I need to put a 0 to represent that. And then if we have the dollar, we know we put the dot, which is a decimal, and we have to have the 25 there. So we can write it in those two different ways when we're determining the value. Today what you're going to be doing is you're going to be adding coins. So if you have coins and you have a lot of them, I know that I hardly had any, so I don't have a whole lot to practice with. I did send out a link to a digital file. So what you can do here is this has the coins. It doesn't have the faces on them, so I'm going to keep looking and I'll share anything over there. You'll be able to build it. It won't have the faces on them, so I'm looking for another tool that kind of has that feature where you can actually use the coins. But I did want to show you what you can do on Seesaw. So on Seesaw, we talked about how when the activity is posted, what we can do with the features in terms of drawing the lines, things like that. I can add, remember those shapes that are here. Unfortunately, there are not any money shapes yet on Seesaw, but there is this line tool. So instead of drawing the line, which I didn't do too bad until the very end there, what you might want to be doing is adding those shapes and things like that. So on this sheet, because it has a number 1, how much money does each piece of candy cost? And there's quite a few of them. There's not a lot of space there. So what I suggest doing is drawing that extra line, which presents a new column in our chart here, and then we can fill in the total amount here. Remember, just like I showed you on that whiteboard, you want to either stick to cents or the dollars and cents. Okay, if you want to find out, it says there's 2 more questions, which is which costs the least and which costs the most. A challenge might be to add up all of them together to see if you could buy all of them together. When you're doing this part right here, 2 pennies, 3 nickels, and 1 quarter, there's a couple ways you can do it. You can just simply do it on a whiteboard or a piece of paper. If you have the coins at your house, put them out and see. You can use this tool here that I will share with you. You can draw them in this way. So we know we can have pennies, and so we can write that with a P. Or we can write it with the value of it. What does it cost? Well, a penny is worth 1 cent, so I could write 1 cent in the middle. And then I have 2 pennies and I have 3 nickels. Nickels are worth 5 cents. And 1 quarter. So then I'd add those up together. Usually we want to start with our largest coin value. And we see we're at 25, and then we can skip count here. This would be 30, and then 35, 40, and then 41, 42. So all together I have 42 cents, which we could also write as $0, and we've got to put that dot there, that decimal, 42. So there are different ways that we can do this, but I did want to show you one of the great features that we can do on Seesaw, which is adding pictures. Now you might not have a whole lot of space to do it here. So one of the things I've seen some of you do, like shout out to Sean, Sean does this all the time, Olivia did this the other day, is using this feature of this add a page. So you might want to do this one, and then you could type up and you could say M and M's. And then you could use this as a tool to show your coins. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how the whole process of how to add a photo if you want to add a realistic coin. We've done some practice with this. You can either take a photo, which if I click, I hope it won't mess up my video here. Yes, it did. But now you can take a photo here, and so you could take a picture of you holding that coin if that's what you want. Or I'm going to show you how to upload a picture. So when you go here, you have the two options. Upload is anything that's saved on your computer or on your iPad or something like that. We did this when we did our Mo Willems Knuffle Bunny activity. So the first thing you want to do is you can go to Kiddle, and we're going to do an image search. So we're going to shift that over. We're going to search for our first coin, which was a penny, and then PNG. If you remember that, that was that way to make it so that the picture that we chose did not have a background. All right, so here's a great one right here that I might want to use. Oh, let's see, hang on, sorry. So this is why I wanted to show you. So I can right click on that image, and I want to save the image. Now, depending on if you know where your downloads file is, you might not want to save it there. Instead, you might want to click Save Image As. And what I'm going to do is I want to save it to my desktop. I'm going to change the name to Penny and save it to my desktop. What that means is that's, which I have so many windows open, I don't even know if you'll even be able to see it. What that is any of these files that are right here on my computer screen that I can see like that. So when I save, let's see if I find it. I'm saving it to the desktop. If I hit save, then when I actually go to my desktop, I should be able to see it, and here it is right over here. So it's on the desktop for us to use. Now, if I go back into my Seesaw account and I'm working on the M&Ms, you can definitely try to fit them in here. You would just have, and I'll show you that in just a second, but let's say I'm doing just the M&Ms. I need the 2 pennies. So then I'm gonna go, I just saved it to my desktop. Sometimes if you have access, now if you're on the iPad, you'll just save it to your photos and you'll do the same thing. But sometimes what I can do is you can see how it switched to that green plus sign. So it's actually allowing me to add it straight in. So I don't even have to go to that upload. But if yours isn't allowing you to do that, all you would do is you would go to the camera, you'd click upload, and now you need to choose where you're choosing it from. So mine first option was downloads. Yours might look a little bit different than this, but you were gonna click that drop down menu, find where you saved it. I saved it to the desktop, and there it is, Penny. Click it, there it is. Now I can take it, and I can make it a little bit smaller. I can kind of fit it to side, and I know that I needed 2 of them, so I'm gonna duplicate, and there's my penny. I would repeat the process with nickel, dime, and quarter by going back to the Kiddle and going over here and typing in nickel PNG. So again, PNG is just gonna allow us to not have a background. And I accidentally clicked on it, but what you want to do is you want to not click on it. You want to right click on it. You want to save the image as. I want to save it onto my desktop again, and this time I'm going to save it as nickel. And there's my nickel down here. So again, now I can go back to Seesaw, upload, nickel. And this time I needed 3 of them. I'm going to make it small, but a little bit bigger. Whoop. A little bit bigger than my penny, knowing that I'm trying to keep the size as much as possible. So there's my nickel, and I can copy and paste. Either use that duplicate, or Katie was telling us last week you can do Control C, which is Control Copy, or Command if you have that, if you know that. Otherwise, you just hit those 3 dots and do the duplicate. I had and did was I saved all the remaining coins to my desktop. These files ended up not being PNG, which means that they have that white background around them, which is totally fine. It just allows us to see that background and it doesn't blend in with the background that I chose, which is totally fine. But I wanted to show you that this is what you can then do. You can add an image to it. You can add a title, you can add whatever you want, and then I would go ahead and definitely add that text box and remember 0.42. When you're typing it, if you're not going to do it in this format, you could just say 42 cents. We don't have a cent keyboard sign, so there's a whole process to get to that. So for today, you could just write it that way, and then you have this nice visual representation of each one. That's totally up to you. You could even put 2 on a page, whatever you want to do. The other option that I did here, which is going to be a little bit more connected, a little bit, or I'm sorry, not connected, a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? A little bit more compact. It's going to be a little bit tighter, but what you can do to help separate is you can put them there, make them a little bit smaller, and point to which one your category is. You could color it. So what I could do then is I could go over here and color this category. Oops, I'd want to use the highlighter tool. So go over to my highlighter tool and select that bluish color, and I could highlight this whole category to know that that's referring to this box in here. So that's one way to do it, and then you would just put the cent total. If you want to show it, if you don't want to show it and you just want to put those values in there, that's fine too. But like I said, if you want to challenge yourself, add all of the total candies together to see how much it would cost all together. That would be a fun way to challenge yourself and challenge your thinking. So really encouraging you to practice with money today. If you are not sure, Miss Hall found a lot of resources for you guys. So there's a lot of Brain Pop Junior videos. She put a couple YouTube videos. There's a coloring page that has the coins on it. If you want to do that to practice, it's going to have fronts and backs of coins. It has all the specialty coins that we have here. Keep going through, you can see there's a lot of those. I also added a link to this. There's a Nearpod that's great. I went through it. It's a great one. And then if you want to just have some plain old practice on paper, counting money with change, there's so many different ways, determining change, how to challenge yourself, word problems, buying with change, things like that. I would probably stick to this type where you're counting change within $1. You could work with counting bills, counting money with both bills and coins. So there are a lot of options for you out there to practice your money. Again, the best way that I find is using those coins in your hands. That's why we do a lot with our manipulatives. At this point, we've covered them in 3 of our units. So hopefully this is a good review for you, and I hope you guys are continuing to enjoy. Come up with some fun ways. You know, we had the donut shop game where we could practice our coins and have different things and assign their values. So if you want to practice coins in a different way, go ahead and do that. You can make this candy shop and practice it in your house with different papers and things like that. So I hope that you have a good day, and I will talk to you soon.